finally, a single-player, story-based Star Wars game from EA without any bastard microtransactions or any bullshit multiplayer component that's just tacked on. No, finally, just a pure, single-player, story-driven Star Wars experience created by Respawn Entertainment, the folks behind Titanfall and Apex Legends. So is Jedi Fallen Order a great Star Wars game, or is it another Rise of the Skywalker failure? Find out in today's review.
Super Beanie-man Gaming.
So one of the cool things about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is its actual story and characters. This is a tale of Cal Kestis, who was a Jedi apprentice back in the Attack of the Clones sort of era, and it looks at what happens to him after the Order 66 is enacted and Vader and all the clone troopers wipe out most of the Jedi. You see that he's gone into hiding, and then 20 years later, I think it is, he's now a grown man, but he's not really used his Jedi powers because he's afraid, basically. And something happens, and he does them, and people uncover who he is, and he's sort of forced to become a hero and face his past and become a Jedi Master. And along the way, he meets other people. Like Siri, who you can see here, she was also a Jedi, and she has her own backstory, and we get to see that, and we play out this adventure as they travel across the galaxy looking for this holocron, which had a list of all the Force-sensitive children in the galaxy. So they're sort of like a race against time with the Jedi, the last few Jedis against the Sith. And this story for me is really well done. There's a great cast of characters there, people you meet along the way on several planets, the people who join your crew. You've got Grease, who's this pilot for you. I mean, he doesn't really get on with you at the start. He's quite a grumpy person, but through playing it and through talking to him, you kind of build a relationship with him. Same with the Night Stalker lady. You sort of recruit a ragtag bunch of people for part of your crew. It was nice. I feel this story worked and was better than the entire new Disney trilogy of movies. The characters were more well-rounded, they were more likeable, they had more depth and personality to them, and this was just one video game. I think they did a great job here. Another strong aspect of the game is the actual music. The soundtrack in this game is great. There's a real nice mixture of Star Wars-like themes and then sort of songs that you might remember. It'll play like maybe familiar beats, like the Jewels of Fates might come in at certain points, but then it goes into its own song, and things like that happen a lot. There's like the New Hope sort of themes and Luke's tune, and it's just really nice to hear them. It really makes it feel like Star Wars, and I think the entire soundtrack is just great. There isn't a bad track in the game, and it's a real pleasure on the ears to just listen to it all. It's great. They did a really good job here. It feels like Star Wars, and it sounds like Star Wars. Do you remember that train level in Uncharted 2? What an excellent bit of the game that was. Well, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has that as one of its first tutorial levels, which is absolutely mind-blowing, really. Now, while the environment that you're going through doesn't look as great as Uncharted one, the level is still really cool, and it takes a lot of inspiration from Uncharted 2's level. There are enemies to fight as you jump across carriages. You get to hang across the sides as you're climbing across to get to the front of the train. There's also a helicopter-style airship that attacks you while you're on the train. So it's very much a homage to Uncharted 2, really. But it's great. It's great fun to go through it and learn sort of a few basic combat mechanics and the platforming controls. And it was a really enjoyable bit of the game. It's one of the few more linear sections of the game as well. So the train level isn't the only thing that the game takes from Uncharted and sort of Tomb Raider, if you will, as the actual platforming traversal of the environment is heavily influenced by those two games. I would also say the wall running and the slowdown of time with your force powers is very much Prince of Persia. And it's great fun to travel around the environment because you do feel like a Jedi, and climbing is fast and it's easy to do, and it's always fun to roll one in a game. It makes you feel really badass. So yeah, it was great fun. So as well as the platforming bits, combat makes up a large chunk of the game, and for better or worse, it plays kind of like a Bloodborne, Dark Souls sort of game. In fact, the whole thing plays as one of those, really. But the combat is all about parrying, dodging, and then striking when you can. You can't really just go in there full force and just try and wail on everything, as you will find that some enemies will be able to counter you or dodge you and hit you. So it does force you to sort of think and take a more methodical approach to every battle and every situation that you're in, kind of like what a Jedi would anyway. So I feel like it succeeds in that because the fighting is so much fun, and when you unlock new moves and abilities, it adds extra layers of depth to the combat system. It's not as tough and brutal as a Bloodborne Dark Souls game, but it has that sort of nice balance of skill and casualness. So while I've been full of praise for the game so far, I would be remiss to not mention that the game is rather glitchy. There are numerous times where I encountered several bugs, some worse than others, granted, but I did see a lot of bugs throughout my playthrough, through ledges that I just couldn't jump up to issues with the lightsaber, and also issues with sound. There was one point where I just had no sound after loading in. And I just couldn't get it back, so I had to quit right out to get the sound back. Other times you might find enemies just glitching out, their paths that they're trying to walk on just don't work, and they just freak out and just completely hit a wall, which admittedly was quite funny to see. And they're never game-breaking issues, but there are a lot of problems with the game. It does feel, while it looks really nice, it does feel a little bit unpolished. This one here where an enemy's floating on this broken sphere, and he was just freaking out there. I don't even know how he got up there. And then there's this one where I pulled up on a ledge and I just started to float all Matrix style, because it was trying to push me back into the water, but the game didn't really know what to do. Every time I had a bug like this, I was laughing my head off. I thought it was funny. It wasn't bad. These ones here were stupid. At this point in the game, I shouldn't have the lightsaber, but when I pressed L1 to block, it pulled out a lightsaber, so the game didn't know what to do, because I shouldn't actually have one at this stage, so it shouldn't be in my hand. And then you can just see it's impaling me. So, another cool bit of the game is when you get to travel in your ship, the Mantis, for the first time. So it has a really nice holographic menu that you go into the bridge and select a planet to travel to. But then when you actually take off, it's great because you get to see the ship rising up and going off planet into space, and it's just a great moment that I'll just let you watch now.
Oh no. Go on, do it. Do it.
Are you
Do
talking
it.
about Master Yoda?
Do it.
Yes, he is very legendary.
Wait, what? Who? No, I'm talking about Master Yoda.
The Jedi High Council member.
Oh, that's so cool.
Clever dream. Let me have one.
Woohoo!
No problem.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
Sit down, kid. It's time to land.
Oh, brilliant. I even get to sit.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order's environments are absolutely huge. They are so big that it can be a bit confusing at times of where you need to go and what you're supposed to be doing, because you'll be running along a path to your objective, but then there'll be loads of other paths around that you might be able to go to and find things. So what could take a few minutes to do a mission ends up taking you hours because you've gone off exploring and looking around. It's kind of built as like a sort of Metroidvania style game where certain paths and certain doorways are inaccessible at the start because you haven't got the required ability or force power to be able to get through them. So it does encourage you to come back later on. But I will say it was kind of overwhelming at times when I was playing, because I was just like, oh my god, this place is just so huge. And while you only have a few planets, I think that's where it makes up for it, because the environments are really big and it's sort of like several levels in one location kind of thing. But they are huge and it is intimidating at times. So one of the cool bits in the game are the stormtroopers, and they're actually quite comical, and they're pretty much cannon fodder for the most part. And the game does it sort of acknowledges that trait from the movies, which I really liked. And there are tons of like higher ground sort of gags that stormtroopers might say at certain times, which I always thought was funny. It's good to just knock them out in one hit, you know, or you'll see them die in the background in funny ways. Maybe monsters killing them, and they'll just fling them across the environment. It was always fun to see when these happened. Sometimes you might go down a path and there's two little animals tugging at a dead stormtrooper or things, or maybe you'll see something like this where I ended up teaming up with this guy to fight this metal knight fella. So I had my own buddy. I mean, it wasn't scripted in the game to be like this, but the way we were playing kind of did it and felt like that. So yeah, there's lots of little moments like that with Stormtroopers. I think they did a really good job of making them just... They're weak and easy to kill, but some of them are harder. The later ones that you see are harder. But it's good that they acknowledge that they are just pretty shit.
Johnny, now! My stormtrooper buddy! My stormtrooper buddy, no! No! No!
So as mentioned, you are looking for a holocron that has all the Jedi Force sensitive people on it, and to do that you need to travel to a load of temples to find various pieces to lead you to certain places and solve certain clues. And because of that, the game can feel a bit more like Tomb Raider and Uncharted than actually Star Wars at times, because you're in a lot of underground tombs solving these weird puzzles, and I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing, really. It's up to you as the player to decide that. So, while I said the environments were big, you are rewarded by exploring and taking your time. This isn't a game that you should just rush through to the end and complete story mission after story mission. I would encourage you to not always go to the objective marker straight away, because exploring off the beaten path will often lead you to some sort of reward, whether it be a customization item, a player upgrade, or maybe even like a little story bit. So it's always worth just taking time to have a look around and see different things. As you can see here, I explored a different path and I found an item to pick up. So it's always good to explore, and it's cool because you get to see more of the game, and you get to upgrade your character quicker by doing it like this, so you're stronger for the story missions. So as well as a similar combat to Dark Souls and Bloodborne, the game also uses a sort of life checkpoint style thing that those games had, where if you die, an enemy kills you, for example, you respawn and all the enemies respawn as well, and that one that killed you has all your XP, so you have to go and hit him to be able to get it back. Now this is a cool idea, and the only way you can heal is by these stims, and you can get more stims when you get to a checkpoint and meditate. But if you do that, all the enemies you just killed will respawn in the environment. So there's a risk versus reward system going on there, but sometimes the game can get checkpoints really wrong, and you'll end up having to do a really long section before you get to a checkpoint to be able to save and get health back. There were a few times in the game where I felt like it was way too long to where I had to go to get another checkpoint, and then other times I would get one after a 5-minute section or something. So there was a little bit of imbalancing there, and it was really frustrating at times to die and then have to run back through the enemies. But thankfully that didn't happen too much, and most of the time you are put not not far back from where you were, kind of thing. But there are a few moments where you need to be careful because you will have to repeat a good 20, maybe even 30 minutes of gameplay if you do fail. So just be aware of that. That is a little niggle I had. So this bit was brilliant. Just watch.
Oh my god, the scream. Oh man, I feel so bad. I didn't think that would do it. Oh, it just died in the water. Instant kill. Okay, follow me into the water, prick. Come on. Because you're going to die now. Sucker! Oh, you did to me! Shit, pal.
The fuck? The opening of the Kashyyyk level is one of the few action-heavy set-piece spectacles that the game throws up. So you're starting off in the middle of the sea as a war is going on the planet, and you have to climb up the giant, is it an AT-AT or an an AT-AT, yeah, it's an AT-AT. You climb up that, and eventually you get to pilot it. So to climb up it, you go on the side and you go on its leg, and then you climb up all the seaweed that's sort of hanging off it in the vines. So it's kind of a nice little logical way of doing it within the environment that it's in. So eventually you climb up to the very top. It's very sort of Shadow of the Colossus style thing. You get up to the top, then you jump in the cockpit and you take out the people inside, and then you get to pilot it, and you have this really cool view of looking out from the cockpit as you travel into the environment and just blast on all of the stormtroopers that are there. It's only like a 10-15 minute long section, but it's really fun to play, and it was one of the cooler wow moments that the game threw up. And yeah, it was just really enjoyable to just blast everyone. So another cool aspect of Fallen Order is the handful of movie character cameos that it throws up, such as Saw Gerrera, the Forrest Whitaker character from Rogue One, I think. So it kind of helps bridge the gap. I mean, obviously you're not going to see people like Yoda or Luke Skywalker or people like that, because they're sort of not there at this point. So it's nice that it threw up a couple of characters, you know, and there's a couple of surprises later on. But one thing I did find weird with the game was the Wookies. They look really dodgy in this game. I don't know what they were trying to do, but they end up looking like a really bad PS2 model. The fur just doesn't look right at all. Whether it's just the lighting's not right on them or something, but they just really stand out as like a complete and utter eyesore. As soon as I saw them in this cutscene, I was just like, what the hell? They just look really weird. I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it, of what it actually is that makes them look weird, but yeah, they were one of the worst looking things in the game. And this game is you know, for the most part, it's a really nice looking game, but the Wookiees, man, jeez, they just don't look right at all. Look at them. They just look so weird. Or maybe it's just me. I don't know.
They'll be okay.
So the game also offers up a fair amount of decent customization for Cal. You can change his actual outfit, his uniform. You can also give him a poncho, and you can find a load of different variants of this. I mean, it's the same model, to be fair, but it's just the texture that's different. So you might get like a red and green one, or a black and white one, or a green, yellow and black one. So it's not, you know, really in-depth customization, but it's nice enough. You can also upgrade BD1 in a similar way, as well as the Mantis paint jobs. And then later on, as you play through the
Why?
game more and more, you'll find more
Yes.
chests with these things in to get more decals, essentially. But you also get to get different lightsabers as well, which I thought was really cool. You eventually get the Darth Maul double-ended one, which is always cool to do. And that offers up a different layer of gameplay to the combat, because you can do different moves with that. So it comes at a point where it's there to sort of give the combat a bit of a boost. So one of the annoying things in the game were its insistence on repeating things. So one of the biggest ones of these was the fact that it repeats this sphere puzzle where you have a giant metal ball that rolls around and you have to push it with the force powers or pull it towards you and get it onto certain spots on the ground. You do this countless times throughout the game when you're going into this Jedi temple, and there's even this one here where you've got to push it up and then push it across so it goes on that white concrete to then go around and land in that thing to open up the gate. And to be honest, by the time I noticed this one, I was already sick of this puzzle, because you do it with like 4 to 5 balls you have to push around, and it was nice the first couple of times, but it just got tired quickly, and it is a bit awkward because sometimes the physics go a bit wonky. It doesn't go where you want it to, and yeah, it's just, that's one of the big problems with this. It does repeat a lot of shit.
So as well as visual customization of Cal, you can also upgrade his actual abilities through a skill point skill tree system that the game has. So whenever you get to a meditation save spot, you can upgrade your character through the skill points that you earn by killing enemies to get XP. So a smaller enemy might give you a small amount, but a bigger enemy gives you a bigger amount. And the skill points are all split up into 3 categories: Force, Lightsaber, and Survival. So Force is your force powers like push, pull, slow down time, things like that. The Survival is your health and how strong you are, and then the Lightsaber gives you various lightsaber abilities, like you can throw it, you can do different moves, you can do longer combos, that sort of thing.
People.
And it's really cool because it really expands your arsenal of moves, and it gets you to really feel like a Jedi. And you know, the more you buy and the more you fill it up, the more powerful you become, and the more fun the game becomes when you start to get a few things. So the force powers tie into the environment as well, because you can use them on foes to kill them, but you can also use it on the environment to get through to places you couldn't before. So early on in the game, you might come to this bridge and you can't actually get over there to push it down, and the force push is the only ability you have at that point. So you can push bridges down and things, but this one you can't, so you have to come back to that once you got the pull ability. So it's a nice way of doing that Metroid style thing to come back and explore new areas. You can also do a slow-mo, so you can slow enemies down to enable you to hit them, but you can also do it with the environment to get past things. One of the cool powers I liked was the force push ability. It's a simple one, but pushing someone off the edge of a cliff is always fun, as you can see here when I first sort of figured I could do it.
Fuck off!
But all these powers, it still doesn't make you feel like you're a god and you can just destroy everything, because you can't. You will still find yourself being beaten by even some of the stormtroopers, and I like that. I like there's a decent balance there.
Okay, Black Lasers. Didn't think I could. What if we're going to get you?
So, while stormtroopers are the sort of majority of enemies that you will face throughout the game, they're not actually the only ones, and the stormtroopers themselves are pretty varied, to be fair. I think the game does a great job of mixing up the enemies that you're fighting, so you never fighting the same ones over and over again, so it becomes boring. The combat, for me, was the strongest point of this game, and it was always fun. There are your regular sort of stormtroopers who can go down in like one hit, or if they have a blaster, you can deflect that and kill them straight away. But then you might find flamethrower ones that are quite awkward to get to. Maybe you have to use your slow-mo to be able to get around them to avoid their flames. Then you'll fight those robots from Rogue One, and they're strong, and they will come and charge at you and try and grab you. And then you've got the walkers, which I forget their names. the ATs or whatever, and they're quite strong. They'll shoot loads of rockets, and they're awkward to get. You've got to hack the legs to try and kill them. And then a bit later on in the game, you'll get these purge troopers, and these are like stronger ones basically, and they will take a lot more to take down.
Motherfucker! My God.
But it's not just stormtrooper type enemies that you'll face. You'll also come across various, monsters or creatures in the environments that you meet. So, various planets will have different sort of wildlife there, and they will, if it moves, majority of the time, it's going to try and kill you. So you get big ogres, you get these flying beetle things that blow up when you get too close to them, but you can also force grab them and throw them into things. Some of the more dangerous ones are the giant spiders who will web you up and then try and eat you. They're always a threat. And then there's these goat ones as well that will also try and take you out. There's a really nice mixture, and it was always fun to go to another planet and see what enemies I'd come across. You also get these little dogs as well, and rats. Each one has different sort of attacks, so you've got to remember how to block them and when best to attack them without getting hit, which I always liked. You just got to remember the pattern and then block and attack when free. But then again, the further you go into the game, more enemies you will unlock. So when you visit more of the later planets, you come across more human type enemies. These sort of cultist Night Stalker enemies, so they're kind of the stormtroopers effectively, but they give them a different, it's a reskin of those characters, but it's nice to fight somewhat different. And then even further into the game, you'll fight these zombie hordes of sisters, basically. There's these undead women, and they tend to come in packs, so they will hunt you down, but they make it use the double-bladed lightsaber because you can deal with a crowd then. So even though there's 4 or 5 of them around you can always take them out with a bigger lightsaber. So it's always cool to fight them. So speaking of enemies, the most annoying one is this fucking Ram, because he just always kicks my fucking ass, and I don't know why, because it should be so easy to kill, but it just never was.
Look at that fucking bullshit Ram, man. Why is the Ram the fucking hardest thing in the fucking game? Fuck me.
The first time I experienced using the lightsaber in the dark caves was amazing, and it was purely because of the awesome sound and the fact that using the lightsaber as a makeshift torch is a novel idea as well. But every time you move the analog stick, you hear that and it's just perfect. It's just it's amazing. Well done. What an awesome job they did with that. So one of the more annoying stormtrooper classes to fight against were the machine gunners, as they were a right pain in the arse, as they always sat at the back of an environment, letting all the others attack you head on, and they would just shoot you from a distance. And the fact that they had a shield meant you couldn't attack them by deflecting the bullets back to them. They were just always a ball ache to fight, and I never really enjoyed it. But I did enjoy killing the fuckers. So one of the coolest things you get to do early on with the lightsaber is deflect bullets back at the stormtroopers, and it's always satisfying to do.
Fuck off, man. Oh yes. Those suckers didn't stand a chance. I was like,
it gets even better later on in the game once you realise that you can actually deflect bullets while in the air or while wall running. The fact that it lets you deflect it while you're jumping in the air truly makes you feel like a Jedi, as I swear they've done that in some of the films, and it's just so satisfying to be able to do it. I'm so glad they took the time to do that. Another move that is brilliant is this one, where I freeze an enemy's bullet and then force pull them towards me so they hit their own bullet. Magnificent. And of course, pulling people towards you in general is always satisfying, especially when you skewer them on your own lightsaber. The brutality of that move is just top notch, and it's always satisfying to grab someone out from a group of enemies and pull them towards you. especially later on in the game, once you've got most of the abilities unlocked, and you can like throw your lightsaber at one while you pull another towards you, or deflect a bullet with another one. It's just so good. So one of the surprising bits in the game was when I was travelling back to my mission marker to only get ambushed by a bounty hunter. Yes, that's right, there are bounty hunters in the game that will attack you, and this one just instantly overpowers me and captures me. What an amazing moment this was.
Oh my god, who are you? What the fuck was that? Shit. Oh, what? I'm actually cool. Oh, shit. Oh, man. Beanie.
Hey! Oh, I'm happy to see you too. Let's get that restraining bolt off of you.
So these bounty hunters are like special strong enemies that appear in certain areas of the levels, and you have sort of like one chance to fight them and beat them before they disappear and go elsewhere, kind of thing. And they were always cool to fight because they're a bit of a more tougher fight. So this one here, there's two of them. There's this giant mech coming at me, and they're just so much fun. There's also a load of sort of mysterious creatures in the land that get populated after a certain point in the game to encourage you to explore areas you've previously been to find these special creatures to take down. And they're also tied to some of the trophy achievements in the game, so it's definitely worth doing them. And they're some of the better fights in the game because of the fight they actually put up. So, as I mentioned before, one of the biggest crimes the game commits, along with its glitches, are the fact that it repeats things quite a bit. And one of the biggest repeaters is the sliding sections. You do this over and over again, and this one that I'm showing you here is perhaps the best one, because it's the most action-packed and intense, but there are so many times where you're just sliding down mud, or you're sliding down ice, or you're sliding down rocks, and you just do it over and over again. I think this developer's got a fetish for it, because you can do it in like Titanfall, and you can do it in Apex Legends, and now you can do it in this. And yeah, it is enjoyable the first couple of times, but after a while I just sort of roll my eyes at it, because sometimes you slide in and you're on like a straight, it's flat, and it's almost like you're doing a Force jetpack type move. And yeah, it's just a bit weird at times, and they can be a bit hokey with the controls at times too. But this one here, it's definitely the funnest one, but it never gets any better than this. Thankfully, most of them are only, 10-20 seconds long before it's over. But yeah, be prepared to be sliding around an awful lot. So after killing a certain boss in the game, I come across a mysterious figure and stole their climbing gear off them to allow me to explore newer areas, because I could climb up new walls. Think of it as basically the pickaxe from Tomb Raider. So here, is that Darth Maul? Is that actually Darth Maul? Or is that just some, another one of his species? I'm not sure. But either way, even if it's not him and it's just someone else, it was a cool cameo. And when I saw it in the corner, I was like, oh my god, wow. So one of the things I enjoyed the most, in terms of the story, was seeing flashbacks of a young Cal Kestis when he's getting trained to become a Jedi as a boy, because you get to see it from the sort of, I suppose it would have been the pre-Order 66 timeline, so everything is happy here, and we get to see a more classic Star Wars looking environment as we're going through. So basically, you learn new abilities through these flashbacks every time you get one. So, you might get a double jump, You might learn how to wall run and various things like that. And they were always cool to play as. It was cool to see it. And it helps develop the character of Cal as well. And it was always cool to do. I always enjoyed those bits of the game.
As long as we get back up, we're still in this fight. Finally back to where I was before the purge, before Master T'Pol died.
Preparation. First though.
So there was also a cool bit in the flashbacks where you got to see when Order 66 was initiated, and this was a really cool section of the game. And you know, you really feel for Cal, but it leaves you with a greater understanding of the character and why he did go into hiding afterwards, and why he tried to sort of fight against who he was and the Jedi and not be sort of involved with it. You know, because he has a lot of guilt basically, but you'd have to see that for yourself. But it's a very cool section of the game, and again, it feels like the classic Star Wars, which the game does really well. So Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has some really epic and really cool, really fun, but also really challenging boss fights. You get to fight against sort of Sith knights. There's obviously the final boss with whoever that is, but you also get to fight giant creatures as well, like this giant bird. And some of these bosses are really tough. This one took me a long time to do. But I like how it also uses some of the force powers. As you can see, I pulled his head and slammed into the ground. And I have to use the double jump to dodge certain attacks and the rolls and things. Each one was challenging. Some of them were a bit too hard, but for the most part, they're all fun, and as soon as you learn how to best avoid their attacks, whether you had to roll or double jump out of the way or maybe slow them down, they were all fun to do, and I really enjoyed getting the better of them. Some particular highlights were ones where you actually fight in the big bad of the game, because that Jedi fight, especially the first one you sort of get with them, it really felt like a Jedi battle. I don't know, that sounds stupid and obvious that it should, but I was like, oh my god, this is brilliant. And when I was doing it, I was like, oh geez, it really tested me and my abilities of what I learnt so far. But perhaps the worst one was the Spartacus boss fight. So it's the guy who plays Spartacus basically, but he's I think he's like Talos or something, Taron, and he is a fallen Jedi basically, who he hasn't quite gone to the dark side, I would say, but he's been swayed in a way. And you have to fight him because you sort of disagree with what he's doing. But his boss fight was just cheap as fuck. There were certain moves he did that would just wipe out most of my health. And he was just an annoying one to fight. I struggled to find like decent bits and places to attack him to get a decent amount of damage on him. And he has like a midpoint status change during the fight, where after you've damaged him so much, he does a load of different moves, and I would always die on those bits, and it's a really frustrating boss fight because of the checkpoint as well. So if you are unfortunate enough to die, this game doesn't spawn you right at the boss fight. You don't just start from where you left off basically. You go back to a meditation point. And the meditation point for this one, it is quite far. It's not far. It's quite close by. It's just 2 rooms away. But the problem is, you start and you have to take out 3 enemies and then do this slow crawl through a tight gap in a wall. And it was just... it was so annoying to have to constantly do that again and again and again just to get to the boss and just start fighting him, only to fail it again and have to do this bit again. The first time it was fine, but taking those 2 out, taking that annoying one out there, and then doing this slow little animation through the wall, it was just frustrating. Why oh why couldn't they have just put an additional checkpoint the other side of this wall? So I literally just have to run down this corridor to him and start the fight. It was just it was an annoying bit because I was failing at this boss so much. So other players might not have this problem, but for me, it just really fucking annoyed me having to do that little bit just to get back to here, because I want to just go straight back and fight him. I don't know, it's not a long way, but when you died on this boss 5 or 6 times, You have to repeat that every time. It does get a bit annoying. So when I finally did manage to defeat him, and he got the most brutal death in the game, I was kind of happy.
Spartacus, you were fucking good, but I was better.
You said, my cross, Dothamir will be your grave.
Whoa, shit. Damn. Fuck.
Let him lie in the dark with his secrets.
So later on in the game, as Cal's connection to the Force grows and you get closer and closer to the goal of the game, he starts to have sort of visions or maybe even premonitions of what's going to happen or what could happen. And they lead to some really cool sections. Like this one here, it all goes dark and then you have to press the lightsaber button and light up this screen, but when you do it, you suddenly got a red lightsaber and you're dressed as a Sith Lord, basically. There was a lot of cool moments like that, and there were some of the more imaginative sections of the game, and I really enjoyed seeing these visions and going through them, especially the way some of them slowly reveal certain characters and then slight animations to build the story that vision's trying to tell. I thought they worked really well, and they were really nicely implemented into the game at a cool point. And I enjoyed walking through them because that's pretty much all you do. You just walk through them. But it was nice to see them, and you sort of got a sense of what Cal was feeling, and that sort of stays with you to the end of the game. Now, I don't know about you, but these free-fall sections during the Gorgar bird boss fight really fucking annoyed me because I just couldn't do them. So, you attack the giant bird creature and you get flung off him and then you're just falling down. And the aim is to just glide down and land on his head. Now, this sounds really simple, but every time we had to do this, I just failed instantly. I completely missed him, and I just found it really awkward to line it up right. Now, thankfully, the game does just respawn you instantly at the top, so you try again. But that kind of makes you think that they realised this section was awkward, so it just let you off quite easily. If you had to restart the whole thing, I'd be really pissed off, but thankfully, you just instantly teleport back to the top and you try again. But there's about 3 of these, because it just repeats things a lot, this game. And every single one, I just missed it every time. I don't know what was wrong with me, to be honest.
God, say every time?
I can't do a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order review justice without mentioning your little droid buddy, BD-1, who travels with you on this journey across the galaxy. So he will often be on top of your shoulder or on your back, and he's basically your main friend of the game. And the relationship between him and Cal are really well done. So throughout the game you can upgrade him because he is actually useful to you. You can do things like unlocking electronically locked doors to let you go through certain sections. He can open chests for you to pick up customization items, as well as when you're underwater you can do that. You can also hack enemy robots to have them fight on your side, and he's generally useful all around, and it's quite funny seeing him interact with Cal, like this moment here.
Shortcut! That's why you wanted to move this thing. You had no idea that was there, did you? You just wanted to turn the cutter on.
So another element they took from the Dark Souls games was healing, and how you have to drink a sort of potion before you actually get to heal. So again, the animations for this, where BD-1 throws at you, does take a while, and you can find yourself in certain situations where you're trying to heal, but you're just constantly getting hit to interrupt that animation, so you don't actually heal, and then that'll just cause you to die. And I found this to be really frustrating. It was just a bullshit way of making it harder to heal, and in certain fights it's just too annoying. I didn't like that aspect, to be honest. It felt a bit cheap. So, all in all, for my final verdict, I've got to say Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is an amazing game from start to finish. It shows you that Star Wars can still be good despite the 3 shit movies that have come out recently. I would definitely give it a 9.5 despite all the glitches that happen in the game, because it was just a blast to play through from start to finish. The platforming was fun and the combat as well was great, and it was great exploring the planets and finding new paths, new items and new upgrades. The combat was brilliant, and I hate to say it, but it's a game where you really do feel like a Jedi. So thank you very much for watching. Here are 2 spoiler points that I want to show. So here, at a certain point in the game, you get to create your own lightsaber after finding the crystal, and you get to choose the colour of the saber, which I thought was a really nice touch. I obviously chose a decent colour that we hadn't used before, but you can go back and change it as well, which I liked. But it was just a neat little touch to the game that I thought was really good. Another thing that annoyed me was the final boss of the game, as I felt that she was more cheap and more bullshit in this fight than she was in the previous one. And I get that it's the final boss of the game and it needs to be harder, but she was just bullshit, man. She would attack you and then attack you again and again and again really quickly, leaving you very little time to actually hit her. The ground pound stomp that she does that creates a wave of effect that you have to dodge was awkward, especially when she does it point blank at you. She also has this like charging rush thing, and for most times it's easy to dodge, but then she does a really long one, and it's a delay when she actually does it. So you try and dodge because you think it's coming because she's glowing red, but then she doesn't do it, and she does it a second or 2 later, and by that point you've already rolled to try and avoid it, so you end up just rolling into her. And if she does grab you as well, she just takes off an absolute shitload of your health. So it's just bullshit. And it's such a long fight as well, and there's no checkpoint in it, so if you fail you're right back at the beginning, and it just pissed me off. I didn't enjoy this last battle, and I really should have. It just annoyed me. Finally, I had to mention this because this scene just blew my mind. I was hoping that I would see him in this game at some point, maybe in those flashbacks, and you never did. They saved it to the very end, and I think this section works brilliantly. So I'm going to shut up now, but thank you very much for watching, and please enjoy this final scene. Cheers, until next time, bye.
Good.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh no. I'm fucked. Oh man, I knew he was going to be in it. He had to be in it.
You have failed me.
Oh, and he killed us. Oh my god.
It would be wise to surrender.
Holy shit, this game is brilliant. Oh man.
Probably.
Oh my god. Oh god, look at my health, man, this ain't fair. I'm dead.
Submit.
I'm dead. Aim R. Ah. Oh, he blocks it! Oh man! Oh shit! Oh, I'm dead, I'm so dead! I'm dead! I got no health!
Turbo left.
Where is he? I can't see him. Oh god. Theater. Holy shit. We've got away. Oh man. Okay. Whew. Oh buddy.
I am certain of it.
Breeze, I'm here. Heading towards the surface.
Oh my days.
I have the
This is brilliant.
See her. She didn't make it, Breeze.
Oh no way! Oh my god. Oh god. Ah! Get him, BD. Hack him. Oh! Oh no!
Surrender the holocron.
Oh no.
Give it to you. We shall see.
Uh-oh. Oh no, man. Ah, she's alive.
I won't let you take those children.
Hey, this is doing this shit one-handed casual, man. Look at him. He's not even like in a stand. He's just standing up.
Such hatred.
So,
You would have made an excellent inquisitor.
oh my fucking god. Uh-oh.
No!
Yes. Strong with the dark side.
It's here.
I can feel it inside of her.
It's here. It's here. Hey, listen to me.
Da-da.
Still have a choice.
See you later, Darth. Oh man, the next game, if he's chasing us down, that's going to be brilliant.